Faded promises. The town of Clearwater, cradled by endless waves and boundless skies, had always been a place of whispers. Whispers of the sea, of fleeting romances, and of stories etched into the sand, only to be washed away by time. Emma didn't believe in those stories, at least not until the summer when everything changed. Emma was a quiet soul, the kind who found solace in the smell of old books and the rustle of pages. She worked at a local bookstore called the Gilded Quill, tucked between a cafe and an antique shop. It was her sanctuary, a refuge from the predictable rhythm of small-town life. One evening, as the orange hues of the setting sun poured through the shop's windows, a stranger walked in. He had a sketchbook tucked under his arm, his dark hair tousled as if the wind had been arguing with it all day. "Do you have any books on Turner?" "The painter?" he asked, his voice carrying a softness that caught Emma off guard. She looked up, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "We might. Art section's in the back." He offered a quick, grateful smile and headed towards the shelves. Emma watched him disappear into the aisles, her curiosity piqued. Minutes later, he returned with a book in hand. "Got it," he said, holding up a battered copy of the life and works of J.M.W. Turner. "Thanks for the help." Emma smiled faintly. "Turner, huh? You're an artist?" He shrugged, a hint of modesty in his expression. "I try to be. What about you? You seem like the poetic type." Emma blinked, surprised by his perception. "I write, sometimes. Nothing worth mentioning." "Maybe someday you'll let me read something," he said, his tone teasing but kind. Before Emma could respond, he introduced himself. "Ryan." "Emma," she replied. It was a simple exchange, but something in the air shifted. Ryan began visiting the bookstore more frequently, always with a new question about art or literature. Each visit extended into long conversations, about life, dreams, and the beauty they found in fleeting moments. Over the weeks, Emma and Ryan became inseparable. Their favorite spot was a cliff overlooking the sea, where Ryan often sketched while Emma scribbled in her notebook. One evening, as the sun dipped into the horizon, painting the sky with fiery reds and soft purples, Ryan handed Emma a sketch. It was a portrait of her, her face framed by the golden light of the setting sun. "It's not perfect," he said, scratching the back of his neck, "but it's how I see you." Emma stared at the drawing, her chest tightening. "It's beautiful. You're incredible, Ryan." "And you're my muse," he replied softly, his gaze locking with hers. Their love deepened with every passing day, each moment a thread in a tapestry they didn't realize they were weaving. But life, unpredictable as the tides, had other plans. Faded Promises, Part 2. As the years flowed by like the ebbing tide, Emma found herself both adrift and anchored. The world had changed in ways she couldn't quite grasp. Friends came and went, and life moved forward with its inevitable pace, but for Emma, time seemed to have frozen the day Ryan had left her. Her mornings began with the soft rustle of pages turning in her journal, the same one she'd used during their countless days by the sea. The words on those pages were no longer full of hopeful dreams, but of longing, a longing that she could never fully escape. The quiet void Ryan left was unfillable. She tried to remind herself that she was living for both of them, that her poetry was a tribute to the love they had shared, but some days, it felt impossible to move forward. Emma kept to herself most of the time, finding refuge in the solitude of her thoughts. She would visit the beach, sit at the cliff where Ryan had taken his last breath, and listen to the sea. Sometimes, she imagined she could still hear his voice in the wind, still feel the brush of his hand against hers. The world around her seemed unchanged, as though it had all been suspended in that one moment when he had gone. It was during one of these visits, when the sky hung heavy with gray clouds, that she met someone new. His name was Luke. He wasn't like Ryan. He didn't carry the same artistic energy, nor did he speak of sunsets in the poetic way Ryan had. But there was something familiar about the way he smiled, something reminiscent of Ryan's warmth. Luke had moved to Clearwater recently, escaping a life in the city that had left him disillusioned. He had heard of Emma's poetry and had come to find her at the bookstore one afternoon, hoping to meet the woman behind the words that had touched his soul. At first, Emma didn't know how to respond to him. He was kind, easy to talk to, but she wasn't ready for anything beyond the memories of Ryan. She had buried her heart, unwilling to open it to anyone else, convinced that the love she shared with Ryan was a once-in-a-lifetime kind of thing. But Luke persisted. Over time, he became a steady presence in her life. He never asked her to forget Ryan. Instead, he gave her the space to mourn while still offering his companionship. He didn't pressure her for more than she could give, but there was a quiet understanding between them. One evening, after months of gentle conversation and shared silences, Luke asked her to dinner. "Emma," he said as they sat by the beach, watching the waves kiss the shore. "I know your heart still belongs to someone else, and I'm not trying to take his place. But I want you to know, you don't have to carry all of this alone." Faded Promises, Part 3. Years had passed since the day Ryan left, and the seasons had become familiar friends. Each one brought with it a different kind of reflection, a different kind of growth. Emma's life with Luke was no longer a mere possibility, it was her reality. They had built a life together, one that was full of quiet mornings, gentle laughter, and moments that were neither too big nor too small. It was enough. Though she had come to love Luke in a way that was uniquely her own, Emma still held on to Ryan's memory. It wasn't a painful grasp anymore. It had softened, like well-worn pages in a book you cherished and never wanted to forget. Emma's poetry had changed too. The words were no longer solely about grief or longing, but about reconciliation, reconciling the past with the present, love with loss. She had found peace, not in erasing one love to make room for another, but in accepting that both could exist within her, side by side. It was on one of those quiet mornings that Luke came to her with a question. "Emma," he said, taking her hand as they sat together in the small garden they'd cultivated behind their house, "I've been thinking about something. I know this may seem like a big step, but I can't imagine my life without you. Will you marry me?" The question hung in the air, sweet and heavy, like the scent of blooming jasmine. Emma felt her heart race, but not from fear. It wasn't the same kind of racing she had experienced when Ryan had asked for her love. This was different. This was certainty, the kind that came from living a life alongside someone who knew your soul without needing to ask. "I love you, Luke," she whispered, her eyes meeting his. "I've loved you in so many ways. But there's something you need to know." Luke's eyes softened. "I know, Emma. You don't have to explain. I know you still carry Ryan's love, and I would never ask you to leave that behind. I just want to spend the rest of my life with you, whatever that looks like." Emma's heart swelled as tears gathered in her eyes. In that moment, she realized just how deeply Luke understood her, how he had loved her despite the past she carried with her. It was a love that was patient, tender, and unafraid. "I'm ready," she said finally. "I'm ready to start the next chapter with you." Luke's face lit up, his joy so contagious that Emma found herself smiling through the tears. Then yes? Yes, she answered, laughing softly. Yes. The wedding was a small affair, nothing grand or extravagant, but it was perfect for them. They chose a simple beach ceremony at sunset, the waves crashing in the background as they exchanged vows. Emma wore a delicate white dress, one that felt more like a reflection of her than an outward symbol of purity. It was soft, simple, and timeless, much like the love she had come to know.